Welcome to Block 9, Martha Washington. In Martha's block, we'll be doing some things that we've done before this year. The first being that you're going to mark your diagonal lines and then sew a 1/4 inch away from that. You can't see it too much on that, but it looks like something like this. And then you're going to take your block and cut it on your drawn line. This is nothing new. We've done this before for 2 half square triangles. And then this is a little bit different. You're going to press one side towards your dark and press the other half towards your light. And there's a reason for that. I'll explain here in just a minute. So after you got all 8 of those made, then these are slightly oversized, so I'll go over how you use your block lock to trim it up again. So the high side of the seam, the side that has all the seams on it, which is my purple here, is on the upper left corner of my block. Upper left corner of my block. I'm cutting sideways to the camera, so it's a little challenging sometimes to get it so it looks right to you. Then these need to be trimmed to 3.5, and here's my 3.5. So I'm going to slide it down, lock it on the seam, put the 3.5 here and the 3.5 here, and trim off this extra. This one happens to be, looks like it's a pretty good one that I only have to trim off the 2 sides, and then I'll just flip it and get that little doobity. Then you're going to pair them together to make your sides of your block. And this is when, if you have one pressed up and one pressed down, which I do on these 2, that when you put them together, oops, if you put wrong sides together, not right sides together, then the seams right here, one's going this way and this one's going that way, they'll lock in or they'll butt up next to each other, and you'll get a perfect little intersection there. So then you'll sew down, and I have a couple of them already made, and see how nice that intersection is right here at the point, because I have one press one way and one press the other. So this one's going this way and this one's going that way. And you need to make 4 of these. Once those are made, we'll work on our center. And the center starts off just like you did for those side half square triangles, that you cut it or mark it mark it, and then sew on each side of the lines, and then you're going to cut down the middle just like we did before, and you're going to press towards the darker color. Now I have them pressed towards my darker color. Now these technically need to be 1/4 square triangles. So what I'm going to do now is cut them right across both colors. Now you can draw your line and cut on the line if you feel more secure doing that. I'm just going to put my 45-degree line on one edge, then scoot it so I have corner to corner in my 45-degree line here, and cut across each of these half square triangles. So I'll cut this one, and there I have my 1/4 squares, and I'll cut this one. Now you're going to pair one of these. These are going to make a pinwheel in the center of the block. So I can get these twisting like they need to in the center of the block. Oops. And then those other 4-inch squares that we cut on one diagonal and we set aside, that's what's going to pair with each one of these. So they make 4 squares, and it's going to make a pinwheel in the center. Now I've sewn all of my quarter squares to those half squares. Now we oversized these so we could use our block lock again. They need to be 3.5, and if yours are like mine, they're going to be a little wonky, so I'm going to have to trim on all 4 sides. So I'll trim this first sides, these first 2 sides, and I don't have my handy dandy little flipper, but I'll just turn the whole block. Make sure it lays flat after you turn it. And then it sits perfectly on the 3.5 line on both sides, and I'll get this wonky little corner out of here. And then I have my third one, and I'll do that one more time. Sometimes it's nice to watch somebody do, even though I'm doing it sideways. I can't get my hands under the stand of the camera to do it so you can see it. Someday I'll figure that out, but right now I haven't figured out how to rotary cut through the camera stand. Then I'm going to have to flip this around. Now this becomes the side with my seam, so I have to also flip my ruler. And the 3.5 is fitting just perfect now on both sides. And I trim and I trim. Now this was the easiest way I could think of to make the Martha Washington block with one side a half square cut and the other side quarter square cuts. So you'll notice that it's gonna make a pinwheel, but the pinwheel is going to be a little different if you're really looking at the picture on your directions. That looks like, oh no, let me see if I can get it to look just like, so that looks like the top row. But then when I get to putting this one in, according to your picture, the half square triangle should be over here. But it's okay, because the seams don't have to be exactly in the same way as the picture. And here's the other one. So, no, that's not the other one, Marilee. You silly. So instead of these large half square triangles are going to look a little different than the picture. But what you're after is making a pinwheel in the center. And this makes a beautiful pinwheel without actually cutting quarter square triangles. And then we're just going to put the block together with our outside pieces that we've already done and our 4 corner pieces. Let me see if you get it. Well, I'm not quite getting it all on camera. Let me adjust this back a little so you can see it. There we go. So you got all. So I'm going to make row 1, and then I'm going to make the pinwheel together, and then I'm going to sew the 2 outside pieces to it for row 2, and then row 3. Martha Washington.